Like a nice hard poke. It's pretty cool, right?
That's cool. We're about to do something really cool. The man behind the scenes greenhouse tour. What are you doing? She's the main attraction. So with our discount, it came to be $12.50 a person. It was 50% off. They have a list up there, so it's actually over here when you get off the land, living with the land. They have a list that shows how much discount you get if you're like a DVC member, certain memberships. There's like several up there. Right there, they're 15% off for those. We got 50% off. But yeah, Amanda and I have talked about doing this for a while, and now we're going to get to do it. It is an hour and a half, and we get to video. So we'll see you guys on the tour.
And then I'll go around the groups real quick, find out where everybody's from, and then we'll get going. But my name is Matt. I just finished my second year at the University of Florida. I got 2 years left, but I'm down here for 8 months doing an internship. I'm an entomology intern. So you guys know what entomology is? Maybe you study insects, right? So I deal with bugs. A lot of people don't like bugs, and that's alright. I don't like them all the time, but I work with them. What I say I do is I like to do things that nobody else wants to do here in the greenhouses. That's my job. We'll talk a little bit more about it. Actually, at our first stop, it's going to be an integrated pest management lab. Those guys are a little bit pests, but I will talk about a different insect that we'll get rid of. Okay. All right. This one might be a little bit more specific to us, though. But I want you to start checking out this cage on the left-hand side. Now, there is a sign on the cage on the right that says Periscope wasp. I do want to preface this by saying they do not have stingers. They're in the same family, but there is no stingers on those guys, so you don't have to worry about them. But in the left-hand side, we actually have a pest insect that we see here in our greenhouse. This is going to be a leaf miner fly. What that leaf miner fly is doing is the female lands on top of the leaf and actually lays her egg in between the top and bottom layers of the leaf. So when we think about a leaf, it's about as thick as a sheet of paper, right? So that's a very precise process, laying that egg right in between the top and bottom. Now if we turn around real quick and take a look up at the screen, we can actually see that process going on. She's then going to back up after she lays her egg and place her mouth where that egg just went. It's because there's already a hole there, and it's easier to take up nutrients from a place where there's already a hole made. Now after about 3 days, that egg hatches. There's going to be a little larva digging around throughout that leaf. So think of it kind of like a caterpillar. Looks a lot like a caterpillar, except when we see a close-up of his mouth part, it's like a little pickaxe digging throughout, and that's part of the reason it's called a leaf miner fly. Now, he's going to dig around and eat up all the stuff in between those top and bottom layers of the leaf. That's all good stuff the plant needs. We're going to see how quickly he can do it next, right up here. So this is actually an 8-day time lapse, and you can start to see these mines forming throughout the leaf. That's that leaf miner larva digging throughout there. Now, after 8 days, this leaf is completely destroyed. So all that chlorophyll, all that stuff that's going to turn that sunlight into usable energy is going to be gone. And that plant isn't going to be able to use sunlight anymore. So it can be a huge problem for us out in our greenhouse. Our plants aren't going to do too hot. What we're going to do is we are going to be using another insect to control that. And this is a beneficial insect. It's called a Particulate wasp. This species is called Opius discus. And what the female does is lands on that leaf, follows that trail to the end, and actually she lays her egg inside that larva. So that larva is digging around in there. She's going to lay her egg inside it and then rub her feet over the top of it. That places a little pheromone, so it's a little scent that tells all the other wasps, hey, there's already an egg in here, don't lay your egg in here. Now that larva really doesn't know what's going on. It just kind of felt like a little pinch. And he's going to chew his way out of the leaf and drop down to the bottom. He's actually going to start to pupate. On the left-hand side, we have our fresh plants that we're placing into our cages with our leaf miner flies. They will be laying their egg inside those leaves. Now, after about a day, they're all done. So we're going to take them out and then move them over to the cages on the right-hand side. Now, inside those cages, there's actually going to be our Particulate wasp. She's going to be flying around and laying her egg inside those larvae. So after that's done, we're going to take those plants out and then move them over here to the funnel on the right-hand side. Now, those larvae are going to be chewing their way out of the leaves, just like we saw up on the video, just over here in our funnel. They're actually going to drop down, get caught down on the bottom in those little cups. It looks kind of like that. You see how those little yellow dots down there at the bottom? Those little yellow dots, you get a cup full of those wasps. That's as big as they get. They do not get any bigger. That's their adult size. You got a cup full of those Particulate wasps. Now what we're going to do when we start to see those mines forming throughout our greenhouse, like we saw up in the video, like we can see over here in this cage on these leaves, we're going to take... That virus did come over, like I said, in 1999. And luckily for us, we figured it was coming. So in 1990, we started working, looking for a variety of plum that's going to be resistant to this virus. I actually did find one. Ironically, it's called the honey sweet plum, but it's very bitter and nobody wants to eat it because it's bitter and hard. So they're actually planting it as a buffer crop around their good. Now all of our plants are going to be grown hydroponically. So hydroponics is essentially going to be grown with water. That's literally what it is. And we aren't using any soil in any of these systems. So if you guys want to see the best example I have of what I mean by no soil, we have our kale right here. As you can see, those roots are kind of just hanging out into the open, right? So there's no medium around those. And the way that they're going to be getting all the nutrients that they need to grow is actually mixed into our water. We take a look into our conveyor belt right here. We can see that there's going to be some sprayers. Now behind us we have another hydroponic system called Vertigrow. What's going on over here is there's actually going to be pots stacked up vertically with 4 plants in each pot. We're going to have 36 plants growing in about 1 square foot of space right up here. Now, just because you guys do see that these pots are filled with something doesn't mean that we're using soil. We are using a media though. So the media that we're using in here is going to be perlite. Have you guys worked with potting soil before? You know those little white balls in potting soil? That's all that perlite is. It's actually a lava rock. They heat it up to about 600 degrees and it pops like popcorn. It's really, really good at draining. So what we do is we place our plants inside that perlite, and then we are going to place our irrigation up at the top. It's going to be releasing our nutrient solution down into these pots. It's going to drain through, and those roots are going to take up what they want and let pass by what they don't. Now, that does run up though, about right here. So about halfway through, we're going to run out of that nutrients, and we're going to have to re-irrigate it to make sure that everybody can get the water that they need. Like a nice hard poke. It's pretty cool, right?
That's cool.
Starts to close. So what's happening with our friend Stanley up here? So he's got a lot of water out here in those leaves. When he feels that pressure, that water rushes down the branch and into the stem. That causes those leaves to close up because there's no more pressure from the water holding them open. Now he does that because he's trying to avoid predators. So if something's trying to eat him, he's going to close up. Gives it a lot less surface area to be eaten, right? He also doesn't look super edible when he looks like a tiny little needle like that guy. Now he does reopen, so it'll take him about 5 to 15 minutes. Depends on how much sun is out there. More sun, shorter time. But he will reopen and look nice and full like we saw him when we came in. So we call him Stanley. His scientific name is Mimosa pudica. He's also known as the sensitive plant. Our toothpicks and our toothpick recycling bin helps us out a lot because then we don't have to sort as much trash. Has anybody sorted trash before?
I'll take this one.
No cucumbers? Alright. Sorting trash is not fun. That's where I was going with that. And it just helps us out a little bit. The toothpick bin is actually over there by the So if you guys were interested in starting a system at home, the easiest system to start would actually be a raft system like we see right here. What we've done is we've taken an old container. In this case, it's a fish tank so everybody can see what's going on in it. And we fill it up with that nutrient solution I've been talking about. On top, we put a styrofoam raft. We cut some holes in that raft. And then we're going to place our plant directly into that raft up top. Now, those roots are constantly in contact with that nutrient solution, so you might think that plant might get over water. And the way that we avoid that is actually with that little porous rock in the back. That's a simple rock filter, like something you'd use at in a small fish tank. But what it's doing is it's providing oxygen to those roots so that they don't get over water.
Try your cucumber. They're good. And I don't really care for cucumbers.
Pests come from? Pests tend to come from the ground up. So pop on in here. You may notice these really big tanks sitting against the back wall. Now this is where our nutrient solution is going to be kept, and we keep it in 2 separate tanks. And the reason we do that is because it gets a little bit gelatinous if it sits in one tank for too long. It'll be out here for a couple weeks, and it's a little bit too long, so it'll start to get gelatinous, and then we can't send it through our irrigation, our tubing. It'll actually clog it up. So we don't want to do that because then we're replacing tubing all the time. So we keep it in 2 separate tanks. Then we have a machine in the middle called an injector. It's going to pop once. It's going to be sucking the nutrients together, mixing them up. As It's gonna pop a second time. That's gonna be sending the nutrients to wherever in the greenhouse those nutrients need to go. And that is all scheduled out on the computer. Now, up here is the solution used. It's actually the breakdown up here. We do have a breakdown of parts per million up at the tour desk in a handout form if you guys would like that. That'll show you guys if you went to like the local gardening store or nursery how to mix that. Now, the majority of it is going to be nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So those are the big three nutrients that all plants are going to need. The most is going to be nitrogen. Now over here we have our raised beds. This is one of the ways that we can grow tubers here at the lab. So up front we have chickpeas. So these guys are actually just growing up and above. We can grow almost anything in this system, but it's really good for tubers because we have basically a tub about this deep. We're going to fill it up with peat moss and perlite, and that's going to provide no nutrients, but also some support for those tubers to grow down. So things like carrots and potatoes, and then we can still irrigate hydroponically. Over here we have our peppers. So we have two types of peppers up here. We have our Aruba peppers and we have our Mesilla peppers. Aruba are going to be more like that bell pepper, whereas Mesilla peppers, those long skinny ones over there, are going to be more like a spicy chili. So these tomatoes are going to be on our lean and lower system. And the way that we're growing these tomatoes, we're starting with a vining variety. We're going to train it to go to the top of that spool that you see right there. Now if we take a look at this older system over here, we can see that once it hits the top, it's really got nowhere else to go. And so what we do is we take that spool and we move it over to the next stop. That leans and lowers that tomato plant down. So that's why we call it the lean and lower system. But it also provides a lot more strength for it to grow up. So this guy's going to get more space. You can see this guy down here has a lot more space to continue growing. Now it's really good for conserving space. So we have about 75 pots in each one of these systems, growing tomato plants. And it's also really easy to harvest. So we're going to harvest about once a week. We're going to sit down in our spinny chairs, grab some tomatoes, throw them in our buckets, and spin on down to the next spot. So all that fruit is at the same level. But I do want to talk about our cucumbers real quick first. So this is where your cucumbers are going to have come from. But I do like to talk about this while we're here. Do you guys have any idea what this is? Just take a look at the bottom. Does that remind us of anybody?
Mickey.
Looks kind of like Mickey, right? So what we're going to do is when the cucumbers get to be about that big, we're going to pop that open, pop the cucumber inside, close it up. The cucumber is actually going to start to grow. Fill out that mold. Once it does, you're going to pull it out. It looks kind of just like a lumpy cucumber. But then you cut it up. And that's when it starts to look like our friend Mickey over here. She's gonna look like a little Mickey Mouse. And we don't do it all the time. We do it occasionally. And it only goes to our restaurants here in the land. But when we do it, it'll be for special things like Mickey's birthday about a month ago. You can imagine almost every single salad out there was full of those Mickey cucumbers. Our lettuce is gonna be grown on our NFT system. What that means, what that stands for is nutrient film technique. Essentially what it is a really big gutter with a cover on top of it. So, on top of this cover, you can see there's some squares cut out. That's because we're going to be placing our lettuce plants directly into that square. Now, those roots are being contacted with the bottom. We're going to grow for 1 week in the back, those lettuce plants from seed, just to make sure that they can get enough root to put on this system. They'll be out here for about 4 weeks, so that's about 5 weeks to grow one lettuce plant. We do harvest once a week out here. Now, those roots are constantly in contact with the bottom because up top we have our nutrient solution being sent down the bottom of that gutter. They're all angled like this, so gravity's helping us pull that nutrient solution down. And whatever those plants don't take up is actually collected down at the bottom. It's going to be sent back up through the tubing, through particulate matter filter. This is our first filter. It's going to take anything in this filter, or in that water out. So anything like root pieces, insect debris, anything like that, taken out of that water. And it goes through our second filter, our UV filter. This is going to kill anything in there, bacteria, virus, pathogen-wise. Anything that might hurt you or the plants is going to get killed right in here. And we send it into our chiller, and we send it back down the roots of our plants. And you guys know why we chill this water? It's our only chilled system here. So lettuce really likes cool weather. If it gets too hot, it's normally like 95 degrees here in Florida. If it gets that hot, it's actually going to start to flower and get really bitter. So if you're getting bitter lettuce, it could be because you're starting it too close to the summer. Move towards that fall time. But what we do is we chill that water down so that we can run it down the roots of our plants and trick that lettuce into thinking it's a good time to grow leafy lettuce and not bitter flowering lettuce. And we will, again, harvest one of these tables a week. We will be producing about 500 heads of lettuce on each one of these tables. It's actually a little bit more. And we will be producing about 27,000 heads of lettuce from these 4 tables every single year. So, a lot of lettuce from a tiny area. Yeah, so we do send these all over to our restaurants. They will be sent mostly to the restaurants downstairs and upstairs, so Sunshine Seasons Garden Grill. A lot of other places grab them too, though. A couple restaurants from Animal Kingdom comes over to grab our lettuce, and then Japan will come over to grab things like our celery. A variety of pumpkins. And we have these big orange pumpkins. You see them hanging over there. Those are Cinderella pumpkins. It is Disney World, so we gotta have our own pumpkin in. But one of the fun things we like to do is going to be a Mickey mold with our pumpkins. So you can see right here, he's starting to fill out those ears. Now, I don't really have anything cool to say about it, but everybody likes to look at it. I will say though, the first one of the season I got to put on, I used to brag about it. It was right up there. We put like a little bow on it, so it was a mini pumpkin, but then it fell. So I can't brag about anything anymore. So I'm going to take this over to our winter melon. Oh, take a look at this big guy. Alright, so, looks kind of like a big cucumber, right? This guy's about 45 pounds. Would anybody like to hold on to our winter melon?
Twice as
Pictures?
much as you.
No? Alright, over here.
If it gets a certain size, is it not edible? It just doesn't taste
So, so if we think about squash, when they get bigger, they get really pithy on the inside, they don't taste very good. These guys actually stay about the same ratio from start to finish. So it remains about the same. We like to grow them as big as possible. But if we take a cross section and look on the inside, do you guys have any idea why we call it that winter melon? It looks like snowflake on the inside, right? So, these guys are from Southeast Asia. They actually don't have a lot of flavor. You know that white part right before the rind on the watermelon? That's kind of their flavor. Kind of like a nothing flavor, crunchy nothing flavor. But they're really good at soaking up flavor. So they're kind of like tofu. So all you're going to do is we're going to chop them up, throw them in things like soups or stir fries, anything with that sauce for it to soak up, and it'll get the flavor of that sauce. Now, that guy's 45 pounds. Our largest winter melon was 95 pounds. So they get really, really large.
How can the vines support it?
Yeah, so the vines actually grow in thickness as our winter melon grows, so the vines are really strong. They can hold on to that melon. What is not really strong is the middle of our trellis, because it's all string up with string. So,
Fingers the size of a winter melon.
This really thick cord, and if you guys can start to see the start of it over here. What we're going to do is we're going to knot that cord around a notch in that vine, and we're going to pull it up on our trellis. Our trellis is actually made out of metal. Even though it's painted, it kind of looks like PVC. It's actually metal. We're going to pull it up on that trellis. We're going to pull it tight just to make sure that it has support on that trellis when it grows and it doesn't yank our nice trellis of winter melon.
Do these, they call like irritants? I know like yank.
Yeah, so like zucchini, right. Zucchini, cucumbers, okra, all that stuff. It's really irritating. The reason it's irritating is because it's got these little furs on it. Those furs are actually not very fuzzy. They're pretty stiff. They're actually there for insect defense. So an insect will be crawling along, it'll actually get stuck on these furs. They won't be able to move. They'll kind of stick into the joints of that insect. They're actually called trichomes. And what's really cool about those guys is we're actually looking at plant physical defenses for insects like trichomes because of insect resistant to insecticides. So bed bugs is a really good example. In Central America, they used to take the leaves of beans and lay them on the ground before they went to bed if they had bed bugs. Go to sleep and then wake up and then they'd all be stuck, all these bed bugs would be stuck on the leaves on the ground because those trichomes would stick to those bed bugs. Now as bed bugs become more resistant to insecticide, they're looking at more things like that, more physical controls to try to control that issue. So, looking back at plants, looking back at nature, trying to figure out how we're going to control an issue. Got sand everywhere, right? So, how are we going to irrigate through this sand? It's all going to be underneath. So that nutrient solution is going to leave that injector that we talked about. It's going to hit this white line. This white line is called polypipe, and this is our main line. Once it goes through our polypipe, it's going to hit this black line. This is called drip tape. If we take a look at our drip tape, there's going to be some blue dots on it. Those blue dots on the drip tape is where all the nutrient solution is going to be emitted. So we're going to actually lay this down in our sand in a grid-like pattern before we plant our plants. We'll lay it down, plant our roots directly on top of those blue dots, and then the nutrient solution will be given directly to the roots. They don't have to look around for that. They don't have to waste energy, and we don't have to waste water.
So you just set them right on top of
Right on top of that blue dot. So actually those are only about 6 or 7 inches underneath the ground. So we're going to plant it literally directly on top of it. They don't even have to work for it. Makes it really easy for us. It's also easier to control plant growth that way because they're getting water from the same source.
Do you need a specific soil or sand?
So no, this is actually, thank you. We use sterilized sand at first to try to eliminate any pest issues that we might have. You see that big pest alert sign? That doesn't always work. The pests will get their way in eventually. But we use sand just because of the support. So the reason that we chose sand is because it provides more support to things like our fig trees that are growing up over there, and we'll see some more trees like pomegranate that we can see right there. Support like soil would provide, but it has no nutrients, so we still grow hydroponic. So up here we have our passion fruit. This passion fruit is really cool when you, has anybody had passion fruit? Yeah? So when you cut it open, there's going to be a gap in the center, and there's going to be seeds. Those seeds are covered in like a slimy yellow-green flesh, and that's what you're going to eat on the passion fruit. Spit out that seed in the center of it. It's kind of like pomegranate in that sense. It's kind of a tart flavor. It's really, really good. Most of the time you're going to see it as like a flavoring in something, like drinks, candy, that kind of thing. But you can get the whole fruit as well. Across the way we have, well not really across the way, behind our passion fruit, we have our tomato trellis. It's the same type of tomatoes that are growing back in that last greenhouse, just growing up in a different way on that trellis. And next to tomatoes, that's actually quinoa. So has everybody had quinoa before? It's pretty popular right now. It's green. You'll actually get a big plume on the top of it. It's almost a purplish color. It's really pretty.
Do you design all your own Mickey molds?
Yeah, so that is all done here. That guy's a little bit small to be filling out that mold. Mike, who runs this greenhouse, got jealous of the string greenhouse because they have so many of them that he decided that he wanted to put one on of his plants. He decided the passion fruit's small, probably not going to make it. We're holding out hope for him. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys to uproot yourselves. On the right-hand side, we have some figs. If we check out those figs, we don't see any fruit on them now because they're really tiny. But they will eventually get fruit on them. And in nature, they're actually pollinated by a wasp. That wasp is going to fly down in there, pollinate that fig, and then he's going to try to fly out. Most of the time, though, he's actually not going to make it because figs get really sticky when they're pollinated. That wasp is going to try to crawl out. Can't do it. That fig will actually grow around that wasp. So, you've eaten a fig, you have pretty high odds of having eaten a wasp at some point. And then we have coffee. So who drinks coffee? Alright, so I drink a lot of coffee, so I love to stop by coffee, but it's also really popular, so it might be fun to know a little bit about it. The two outside varieties are Arabica. That's our most common variety. On the inside is Quinoa. Now, if we take a look at his branches, we'll see cherries on those branches. The bright red cherries are the ones that are ready to harvest. We're going to crack those open. There are going to be 2 coffee beans on the inside, and they're going to be white. When we take the white bean out, that's actually at their highest caffeine content. So, as we roast coffee, we're actually roasting out caffeine in the process as well. So our light roast coffees are going to have more caffeine in them than our dark roast coffees. And so if you go to the store, grab a bag of coffee, the ones that are always labeled like a breakfast blend are always going to be light roast because they're going to have more caffeine in them. Fun fact of the day, right? Has anybody heard of Zucca before? No. So this was actually a cash crop in the 1960s in California. He's a really big cash crop. But nobody's heard of him before because he wasn't sold as Zucca before. So, let's give a quick rundown. These guys are a gourd from Africa. They can grow up to 120 pounds. So they can get really, really large. Now, Zucca was not sold as Zucca because Zucca doesn't taste like much. And so, well, it was really popular to give out in the 1960s holiday time. Fruitcakes, I guess. I wasn't around for it. But apparently fruitcakes are really popular. And so, what they would do is they would grow these massive gourds and they would cut them up, cook them in sugar because they didn't taste like much. And then after they cooked them in sugar, they would put them in that fruitcake. They would label it on the back as various fruits, and then they would sell it as a fruitcake. As you can probably imagine, that's not legal. Gourds are much cheaper than fruit, and so what happened is the FDA found out about it, cracked down, Basically, the rule was if you were going to sell a Zuka, you had to sell it as Zuka. Nobody wanted to buy a Zuka cake, and then later nobody wanted to buy a fruit cake, and so that whole industry went down. They actually stopped growing Zuka because they really couldn't find another use for it. Right now we're growing Zuka because we're sending it over to Flavor Lab. So that's where all the chefs from Disney kind of come together, try to come up with new dishes for our festivals or for a mainstay for the park. We will also send it over to Animal Kingdom. So that stuff will get chopped up and weighed out by their dietitians, put in these like sectioned off Ziploc containers. It's really impressive stuff, but they eat better, those animals, than any human I've ever seen. It's pretty impressive. Take this down here. We do have a 9-pound lemon to look at. These guys aren't 9 pounds. You can grab that when you're halfway through. There we go. So these guys are about 1 to 2 pounds.
It's the size of your head. Hold it up.
But it's still pretty big for a lemon. Now we call this a 9-pound lemon tree because on average, how big are these lemons? 9 pounds. Nailed it. So on average, these lemons are about 9 pounds. Our largest 9-pound lemon is actually 15.2 pounds, like that big. Really, really big lemon. It produced about a gallon of lemonade, and that lemon tastes almost exactly the same as our normal lemon. But we are going to use it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it is a little bit different, but it's going to taste almost exactly the same. Actually, just a tiny bit sweeter. I personally like them more. However, you don't see them in the grocery store because they're mostly rind. So when you cut it open, that guy right there will probably be that much rind and that much fruit. It really just doesn't make sense. It's also not nice and wedged like our lemon now. It's more fingery. Have you guys heard of pomelo before? So pomelo is like the super great grandfather of the grapefruit. He is going to be one of the 3 original citrus fruit, and he is actually going to be a sweeter tasting grapefruit. And then next to our 2 pomelo trees, we have citron. So citron is going to be the second of the 3 original citrus fruit. He does not taste like a whole lot. He'll be chopped up, used in like stir fries, because he doesn't taste like a whole lot, but he smells really, really good. And so he'll be thrown in like bags and drawers in order for that stinky bag or drawer to smell a lot better. I'm gonna take you guys around. These guys right up here are gonna be hollyhock. Well, they are hollyhock. They're gonna be big hollyhock. And then across the way we have sunflowers. These are American giant sunflowers. These are like your commercial sunflower with a seed in the oil. That is actually David. So all of our citrus is going to be citron, pomelo. What we're seeing up here are our prawns. Now, our prawns can get really, really large. If we take a look at this guy's claws coming around, those claws are over a foot long, and they're bright blue. So our prawns can get really big. Our largest prawn was 26 inches long, so that's a really big prawn. Now, those claws turn bright blue because protein is going to build up in those claws as they get older. That's going to cause that claw to change color. Now we have some juveniles up there in that middle tube, and some older ones down here. The older ones need a lot more space because as they get older, they get more aggressive. Actually rip each other's legs off, rip each other's claws off. It gets really nasty in there, so make sure that they have enough space to be happy. Do we have any questions about our prawns? This one up here? Yeah, I think so. So it's either a molt or a carcass, so he's either molting or he's eating in mold. Never seen that one before. Yeah, I think he's eating it because he keeps picking it up and looking at it. So, it's probably not molting. But they do molt a lot like a snake is going to shed its skin. And we do have some molts up here. So these aren't dead prawns, they're just molts. If we take a look into this cave, we'll see there are 2 large white catfish. So those 2 white catfish are actually not albino. They're actually not albino, they're going to be leucistic. The difference there is that albino individuals are going to be lacking all melanin pigment. Leucistic individuals are going to be lacking multiple different pigments. When we look at the eyes, albino individuals tend to have those pink or red eye. Leucistic individuals tend to have the blue eyes. Now, our first look at the tail is going to be our hybrid striped bass. This is a cross between white bass and striped bass. all drop together, all right?
So they know they're gonna be fed.
Yeah. We're ready for it.
Want a piece?
Thank you.
I think just a little.
There you go.
It does smell like ice cream.
1, 2, 3, go. Yes, they're about 8 months old. They're about as old as I am at this internship. Oh, excuse me. You're fine. So I'm going to cover out some minutes in the back. They're cross between our blue tilapia
got soaked.
and our Nile tilapia. And the reason that we use the cross for highlight is because they're going to grow a lot faster for us. So we're going to feed them. After feeding them about 1.2 pounds of food, they're going to gain about 1 pound of mass. So they're extremely efficient. Now, because the cross the boat riders, this is really large shrimp, those are not shrimp, but fish. Those fish are sturdy. I'm going to leave it at that for now, though, because we have to walk back the same way we walk in. If we talk about everything on the walk in, we have nothing to talk about on the walk back. We stare at each other for about 5 minutes, and it's real awkward for everybody. Now, our first chalice up here is going to be vanilla. That's what vanilla looks like, that vine. And I'll talk about vanilla soon. Behind that is going to be our fluted pumpkin. Now, what's really cool about fluted pumpkin is that the male flower is on a different plant than the female flower. So if we look up top, that's where our female flower is going to be. And down low is our male flower. And then we have another banana. This banana is known as ice cream banana. He's only going to get to be about this big, so he's really small. He's a tropical variety. Well, all bananas are tropical, but more tropical variety. And he's going to be about this big, but he's really firm and really sweet. So he's much sweeter than your normal banana. That's why he's called the ice cream banana. Our first fruit up here is sapodilla. That one is going to be from central Mexico, and it's going to be a very sweet fruit. It tastes kind of like a brown sugar soaked pear. And then we have our star fruit or caramola. Now, when we cut him open in half, he's going to look like a star. That's why I call him star fruit. He's going to be really crisp like an apple. They're really interesting because you got to get them right at the ripe point. I've had them overripe and they're really not tasty, and I've had them underripe and they're really not tasty. But if you get them right at the right point, they're really good, and they're kind of a sweet and tart flavor. I want to talk about this big guy that we're seeing. So do you guys have any guesses to what this is? It's kind of misleading, right? Because we just talked about star fruit.
No, I used to buy them.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this guy looks like a star fruit. He's really big. That's pretty much the only difference in looks there. He's actually going to be a fluted pumpkin. So it's that two plant that we have up there. So when we cut him open, he's going to look a little bit more like a pumpkin than he looks like in there. So you see him right there? So he's going to have that nice orange flesh, and that's going to taste a lot like your gourd or pumpkin would. However, he has those really large seeds. Those seeds are really, really starchy, and it tastes a lot like a potato. You can prepare them any way you can prepare a potato. Now, I do have a quick game for us to play. You guys ready? All right. After this, I won't make you interact with me anymore. This is called the Spice Challenge. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna pass around some spices. You're allowed to open them up, smell them. Please don't eat them, but you can open them and smell them. People have eaten them before, and they don't taste good anymore. They've been in here for a while. But open them up, smell them. Right? Your goal is to try to guess what they are.
Better be good at this, Spice Woman. What?
I don't know. I smell them.
You know what it probably smell? I'm gonna have a guess. I kind of have a guess on this one, but I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Put that one out there. One of them's kind of tricky. Yeah, it's pretty tricky. So everybody got 17 and 33 over there?
Vanilla?
Yeah, that's what. That's kind of what it smells like.
We're gonna start with 33 right here. You guys have guesses for 33?
Saffron?
Yeah, you nailed it over there. So saffron, it's gonna be the world's most expensive spice. So, I do have a picture that goes along with saffron. I'll start passing it over here. If we take a look at the bottom right picture that we're gonna see, it's gonna be a picture of that safflower open. There's going to be 3 sprigs sticking out of it. That's all that saffron is. It's actually the style of that flower. So you're gonna pull that off and that's it. So It's gonna take about 80,000 flowers to produce 1 pound of saffron. It's only gonna open up for a little bit during the day. It's more at that dusk time. And it takes, it has to be hand harvested. So it takes a lot of manpower to harvest up those flowers. Now, because of that, it is the world's most expensive spice. It's gonna go for about $2,500 to $5,000 a pound, depending on the variety and the time of year. The most expensive saffron is gonna be Persian saffron. It's really expensive stuff. But it's also really strong, so if you wanna use saffron, you only have to use a tiny bit most of the time. So then I wanna talk about 28. You guys have a guess? Yeah, you nailed it. So it's gonna be vanilla.
Got it right.
We'll start this one over here. So if we take a look at that picture in the bottom right, we're gonna see a flower. It's actually gonna be a final orchid. It's really cool about vanilla. It is going to be pollinated by one insect in the world, and that guy lives in Mexico. That insect is from the genus Maripona. It's gonna be a tiny little stingless bee. A lot of people think it's a fly because it is a stingless bee, but it is a bee. Most of our vanilla is coming from Madagascar. So what that means is we gotta hand pollinate it. Part of the reason why vanilla is so expensive, it's also grown in a very narrow region. Now, thank you. Because of that, vanilla is the world's second most expensive spice. About a pound of vanilla bean is about $600. So you can imagine why that little jar about that big is like $30 at the grocery store now, right? If a pound of those beans is $600. I got somebody on my tour the other day who did audits, and she said that she audited the McCormick company, and that was like a huge deal. They count all the vanilla beans. And now I want to talk about number 8. So this is probably the trickiest one that I sent to this. How many guesses? Allspice. That's a good guess. It's not allspice. It's not. Alright, so number 8 is going to be this one right here. It's Grains of Paradise. A lot of people are like, how was I going to get that? Maybe you won't. It's also known as guinea pepper, and it's a substitute to black pepper. So you can actually find it a lot in specialty food stores. And that's why I pointed out, because it tastes a lot like something we already know. It tastes a lot like black pepper. But if you guys want to try something different, it's kind of got a citrusy kick to it. If you want to try start using some more spices, something new that you haven't tried before, I think this is a great place to start. So it's Grains of Paradise with guinea pepper again. That kind of leads us to this one. You guys have any guesses what this one is?
Pepper.
Nailed it. Alright, so I said black pepper for last because that's our Mickey tree up here. Mickey is our oldest plant in the greenhouse. He is going to be about 16 years old, so he's been here for quite some time. Everything rotates except for Mickey. Mickey stays the same. Patio, our miracle fruit. So, miracle fruit's gonna get a fruit on him about that big. He's gonna be bright red. There's gonna be a big seed in the middle of him. You're gonna eat that flesh, spit out that seed. The flesh doesn't taste like a whole lot, but what it does is really cool. Everything sour that you eat after eating a miracle fruit tastes sweet. So I did it with a lemon, and it tastes a lot like lemonade. You can actually eat that lemon right off the peel. And we're gonna start talking about sturgeon. So do you guys know what sturgeon produce? So we're gonna want sturgeon produce. It's gonna be their eggs, caviar. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take those eggs, salt them up, cure them, and they're gonna be caviar. And caviar is very, very expensive. Those sturgeon are Russian sturgeon. They're gonna be producing the world's second most expensive caviar. It's called gold caviar. Gold caviar is about $100 an ounce. Very expensive stuff. Now those sturgeon are gonna go for grow up to about 250 pounds. Produce about 10% of their body weight in eggs, about 25 pounds of eggs. 16 ounces a pound, $100 an ounce. You're looking at about $40,000 a fish if you do the whole process yourself. So, very expensive stuff. It will take them about 15 to 20 years to get to maturity though, so you gotta wait out that long waiting period. Now across the boat ride, you're gonna see a plant in between our corn and our millet. That plant in there says extremely hot pepper. That is the Carolina Reaper. That is officially the world's hottest pepper. So, to give you guys an idea about how hot that Carolina Reaper is, I'm going to give you guys a scale rundown. It's going to be a measurement of the capsaicin in that pepper, the stuff that makes it spicy. So a bell pepper is going to be at 0 to 100 on that scale. Has everybody had a bell pepper? Not spicy, right? We're going to jump up to the jalapeno. Everybody had a jalapeno? Most jalapenos are about 2,000 to 4,000 on that scale. The hottest are gonna be 10,000. Everybody's had a hot jalapeno before, right? And then we'll talk about the habanero. So the habanero is gonna be about 300 to 500,000 on the Scoville scale. Has everybody had an habanero before? So most of the time you're gonna have it in a sauce. Believe it or not, even though that sauce is extremely spicy, that is going to be diluted. So it is diluted because it's in all that liquid, but they're about 300 to 500,000 on that scale. And then we'll go to the ghost pepper. You guys have had a ghost pepper before. So, almost always in a sauce. I don't think I've ever seen a dish with ghost peppers. I've seen straight up ghost peppers before, but never a dish that says, oh, we use ghost peppers in like our, I don't know, whatever you, nachos or something. No. They're extremely spicy. They're about 1 to 1.2 million on the Scoville scale. That Carolina Reaper is a cross between the habanero and the ghost pepper. He clocks in about 2.2 million on the Scoville scale. So, give you guys an idea about how hot that was. Of course, I had to try a little bit of it. I tell you how everything tastes, so I gotta try that one too. So, that guy is extremely spicy. I took a tiny, tiny bit. The outside skin, so small, couldn't even pick it up. Had to kind of stick it to my fingers, stick it to my tongue. It felt like there was like a fire in your mouth, like kind of like a candle. And like, it gets hotter and hotter. It's extremely spicy. Spreads down your throat, into your stomach, and it lasts about 15 minutes. It's really rough. If you want to see what happens to people who take a whole bite of it, there are plenty of YouTube videos on that right there. I didn't do that though. Now across the boat ride, we're going to see some more tomatoes, but they're growing up in kind of a tree. We call it our tomato tree. It's going to be one tomato plant growing up onto that trellis. But we're really, really proud of that tomato tree. The reason we're proud of our tomato tree system is because we had the most fruit produced by one tomato. But one tomato plant, we got the world record for it. We actually produced over 32,000 tomatoes from that one plant. We're gonna be popping out of this greenhouse.
Yeah, those are pretty. Your kale.
So as we pop out of this greenhouse, I want to stop real quick by Cinnamon and talk about him or her. I say guys a lot on my tour. It's just a word I say a lot, and the other interns are starting to give me crap for it, so I'm trying to switch up the vernacular. So this lady Cinnamon. If we take a look at its bark, that's actually what cinnamon's gonna be. It's gonna turn a bright red when it's ready to harvest. You're gonna chisel down that bright red layer. There's gonna be a second layer underneath. We chisel down that second layer, and that's what cinnamon is. So when we go and buy a whole cinnamon at the grocery store, it's always rolled up, right? And that's why it's always rolled, because it's literally just chiseled right off the bark of that tree. Now that is harvested sustainably, so that bark will grow back and we can harvest again. So I'm gonna take us up to our baobab. Now, our baobab is going to be also known as the upside down tree. That's because he's going to be dropping all of his leaves during the drought season, and he is going to look like a tree that got uprooted and stuffed in upside down because his branches are so complex it looks like a root system. Now, he does produce a fruit that's edible. It's going to be very high in vitamin C. You can take it off, grind it up, and then you can kind of use that ground up powder that you got as like a lemonade. And then over here we have our tamarind. So, does tamarind's leaves remind us of anybody? Stanley, nailed it. So, they're very closely related, except Stanley doesn't produce anything we want to eat, whereas tamarind does. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get a little tamarind off of here. There are two types of tamarind. There's going to be sweet tamarind and sour tamarind. I'm not sure what this kind is. We have one in the greenhouse that is sour tamarind, and I know that because I ate it. This one I'm waiting for those guys to finish maturing, and then I'll try it out. I might be able to eat it. But the sweet kind is actually going to be one of the main ingredients in Worcestershire sauce. And it's actually can be eaten straight up or as candy. The sour kind is normally found as candy or eaten straight up.
You better get in. What did we all think of the tour?
It was good.
Yeah, it was
worth it.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was pretty cheap. I mean, we got ours for a discounted price, but it's only $25 anyways. But it was cool. We learned a lot about the plants. We got to try a cucumber, smell some spices. I mean, you guys saw it, but it was really cool. Yeah, we did get wet. The fish splashed us. So
Fed tilapia.
yeah. But if you are looking for something extra to do and it's hot outside,
It was really informative.
yeah.
It was nice.
And our guy was pretty great. He gave us
About
a
an hour and 15 minutes.
yeah, exactly like an hour and 15. So check it out if you're here. It's really cool.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this adventure. We hope you had as much fun watching it as we did making it. Make sure you subscribe here for more fun videos.
And don't forget to check out the previous video, which is right here. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and any other social media we have. We'll put the links below for that. Thanks again for watching.